This game shouldn't have existed. Think about the biggest video game you played recently. It probably has amazing graphics, huge maps, and takes up a ton of space on your console. Now let us take a trip back in time to the year 2004. San Andreas came out and shocked the world. The game did not just give players a city to explore. It gave them three massive cities: Los Santos, San Fierro, and Las Venturas. In between those cities, there were huge deserts, tall mountains, and small countryside towns. You could drive a car, fly a plane, ride a bicycle, and even get a stripper to give you a happy ending at the corner of a street. If you look at the math and tech inside the console it was made for, the game was completely impossible. It was too big, too heavy, and asked for too much power. Yet when you put the disc in your PlayStation 2, it worked. How did a weak gaming console run a whole state without crashing every 5 minutes? The truth is, Rockstar Games did not actually build a giant living world. They built a massive magic trick. They used optical illusion, clever lies, and smart coding to trick your brain. Let's pull back the curtain and look at how Rockstar Games faked an entire city. To understand how amazing San Andreas is, we have to talk about the PlayStation 2. Today, we remember the PS2 as one of the best consoles ever. But by 2004, it was getting very old and it was extremely weak. Let us look at the memory. The PS2 had only 32 megabytes of system RAM. So just how small is 32 megabytes? A single photo taken on a modern day phone is about 5 to 10 megabytes. That means the entire memory of the PS2 could only hold about 3 or 4 high quality pictures. Modern day consoles have 16 gigabytes of memory. That is 1,000 times more than the PS2. The PS2 also had a very slow processor. It could only think about too many things at the same time. If you tried to load a whole city into the PS2's memory at once, the console would literally melt. It just couldn't handle it. Rockstar Games had a massive problem. They had a giant map with hundreds of cars, buildings, people, strippers, and trees, but they had a box to run it on that had less power. If they tried to build the game the normal way, the frame rate would drop to 0 and the game would freeze. They had to stop thinking like game developers and start thinking like wizards. They had to learn how to hide things right in front of the player's eyes. So how do you fit 3 giant cities into a 32 megabyte box? You don't. The big secret of GTA San Andreas is that the world does not exist if you're not looking at it. When you stand on top of a building in Los Santos and look down the streets, you see cars, people, and buildings. But if you quickly turn around to look behind you, the world you are just looking at vanishes. Cars disappear, the people stop walking, the building turn into flat, low quality shapes. The game only loads a small cone of vision directly in front of your eyes. Everything else behind your head is blank, empty void. As you drive down the road, the game is constantly building the world right in front of you and erasing the world right behind you. Rockstar also used a trick called LOD, which stands for level of details. When you are standing right next to a car, it looks detailed. It has round wheels, shiny glass, and clear colors. But if that car drives a block away, the game replaces it with a much uglier, simpler model. The game does this with every single building, tree, and lamppost by making things uglier when they are far away. The PS2 saves energy. Your eyes cannot see the missing details from far away anyhow, so your brain thinks the whole world is beautiful and complete. The hidden loading tricks. Have you ever played a modern game where you walk through a door and have to sit through a 30-second loading screen? It totally breaks the fun. San Andreas did not have loading screens when you drove across the map. You could start at the bottom of the map and drive all the way to the top without a single pause. How did they do this without loading screens? Well, they hid the loading screen inside the gameplay. One major trick was speed limitation. Have you ever noticed that the fastest car in San Andreas did not actually feel that much faster than the medium cars? That was on purpose. Rockstar artificially capped how fast you could move through the world. If they let you fly a jet engine super fast across the map, the PS2 disk drive would not spin fast enough to read that data. You would literally drive off the edge of the world into a blue sky because the road had not loaded yet. By slowing you down just a little bit, the game bought enough time to stream the data from the disk. Another clever trick was the fog. If you looked across the ocean or across the desert in GTA San Andreas, you would notice a thick haze of fog on the horizon. Players thought this was just weather or smog in the air. It wasn't. That fog was a giant blanket used to hide the ugly, unloaded parts of the map. The game could only render objects up to a certain distance. The fog was placed right at the boundary line. It kept you from seeing buildings popping out of thin air like magic. It made the world feel endless, even though the world actually ended just a few yards into the mist. So, why did the city feel alive? A big map is boring if it feels empty. Rockstar did not just want a big map, they wanted a living map. But remember, they had no memory to keep track of thousands of visual citizens. To solve this, they created a system called zones. The map was divided into simple grid squares. Each square had specific tags. If you are in CJ's neighborhood, the game loaded the poor gang zone. The game would only spawn old beat up cars and people wearing green clothes. If you drove over Rockford Hills, the zone would change to rich. Suddenly the beat up cars vanished and sports cars started spawning on the street. The game did not track these cars across the map. If you see a red sports car drive past you and you turn a corner, that car does not keep driving to its destination. The moment it goes out of your sight, it's deleted from the game's brain forever. Rockstar also gave the fake citizens behavior loops. Pedestrians did not just walk in straight lines, they were programmed to do small tasks. Some would carry grocery bags, some would jog, some would keep talking to each other. If it started raining, they would put their hands over their head and run for the cover. None of these people had homes or names or real lives. They were just puppets created 2 seconds before you saw them, programmed to act natural and then thrown in the trash the moment you looked away. But because they acted normal, the city felt like a real breathing place. There were some illusions players never noticed. There are so many tiny lies built into San Andreas that you probably never noticed. Let's talk about mirrors. Making a real mirror in a video game is very hard for a computer. It requires the game to draw the entire room twice. Once for the real room and the other one for the reflection. The PS2 could absolutely not do this. So how do mirrors in barbershop work? Rockstar did not make a mirror. They made a glass window. When CJ sits down in the barber chair, there is actually a second identical room in the right behind the wall. Inside the secret room is a secondary CJ puppet that copies every single move you make. When you look into the mirror, you actually looking through the window at a clone of your character in a twin room. Another amazing illusion, the traffic lights. If you look down from a high mountain at night, you can see hundreds of tiny white and red headlights moving along the distant highway. It looks beautiful and makes the world look massive. But if you fly a helicopter down those highways, you actually see those lights are not real cars. They are just tiny 2D glowing dots moving along a flat line. There are no engines, no drivers, and no physics. It's just a light show. Once you get close enough, the game deletes the dots and spawns in real 3D car models. This game has features that modern games still struggle with. What's truly crazy is that this old fake game did things that modern games with giant budget still fail to do today. Think about character customization in GTA San Andreas. CJ's body changes based on how you play. If you eat too much, he gets chunky and obese. If you lift weights at the gym, he gets muscular. If you run a lot, his stamina goes up. Many modern games do not even try to do this because it makes clothing design and character customization twice as hard. GTA San Andreas is a masterpiece not because it had the best technology, but because it had the smartest creators. Instead of giving up and making a smaller game, they used clever tricks, illusion, and fake systems. Anyway guys, if you have reached the end, consider subscribing and liking the video, and see you on the next one.